Hi, so I'm Tamar. This is Alison. So hi, Alison. Hey. So yeah, welcome to the Lived Experience Practitioner Discrimination Diaries. I think this is probably the 8th entry now, and all of the others have been basically me just kind of yakking away to the camera, but decided to do something a bit different this time. So all of the other, basically the discrimination diaries are kind of documenting the journey that I'm going through, trying to get legal support pro bono, because I have no money, to to help with the fight with sort of workplace discrimination. Because I am in a union, I have paid my fees, but unfortunately discrimination is really hard to win, and if it's not going to be easy to win, then the union won't do it. So so this is where yeah, looking for support to do that. So yeah, if there's any solicitors out there, if anybody knows anyone, send them my way. But part of the diaries as well is to understand the impact and also how kind of difficult it is to do that. Which brings us to this conversation, because one of the things that's really important, I think if you're going through any kind of discrimination, is having good friends and good family. And Alison is one of my good friends. Massive support. Thank you so much, Alison. So let me just, do you know what? I'll introduce yourself, because you're going to introduce yourself better than I ever can. So.
So yeah, I'm Alison. My pronouns are she and her, and I've known Tamar probably about 5 years, something like that. And it's the weirdest way that we met, because we met through alternative wedding planning, which I don't do at all anymore. But actually discovered that we'd worked in similar fields. So I'm trained as a community worker, but I've just gone freelance as diversity and inclusion trainer and consultant. And also I'm in the process of setting up a CIC around Black women's mental health and wellbeing. So this is again where Tamar and our paths crossed. In fact, they crossed very closely, and we worked in the same office without realising it. On different.
It's a big office.
Yeah, it's a very big office. But so yeah, it's a friendship that came through the weirdest route, but actually we've kind of found a whole load of stuff that in common that's so completely nothing to do with weddings or alternative. It's great, love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and when I was working for the local authority, I worked in the inclusion team as a youth and community worker, specifically working for Black and back in the day it was called the Black and Minority Ethnic Team, BME team. I also used to be the Equalities Rep for Unite for the youth and community work chapter sector. I don't know what it's called these days. So I do understand the process around unions and discrimination and tribunals. It's hard, it's arduous. And then obviously working in a role as a Black professional for Black community in a very white organisation, and also as well for a lot of years I was the only Black woman who was nationally qualified as a youth worker for the youth service for about 5 years. It just meant that my personal identity was also my professional identity, and it was very difficult to manage the two, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is me. I don't know, do you want me to say more?
That's lovely, thank you. And yeah, and I was going to say as well, we're doing this kind of we're doing this a bit chatty man styly.
Always chatty man style. Do you know what I mean? It's like I love how you make that sound like it's a new outlet for us. Like we've never gone down this route before, but
never.
We know where this road leads. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so this is a warning to viewers, right? Put on your seatbelts and just get ready for the ride.
I'm not wearing a slogan t-shirt today. I don't have one of my Fight the Power t-shirts on. So
Alison's got amazing t-shirts. Yeah. And earrings.
I know, I'm not even wearing that. Oh wait, I am wearing my Fight the Power hat though. Can you see? I've got my black fish.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. It's amazing.
Got a little bit. Got to be done.
And do you know what? Right. I'm just gonna own it. I'm sat in my bed. I've got my pajamas on. But it's Sunday. What's that? Yeah.
I'm actually jealous.
It's Sunday.
Only booking.
Yeah. I've got my Baileys with a bit of amaretto in my gin and tonic glass.
Yes.
There's no gin and tonic in them. And also, I'm showing off now. Right. I never cook ever. Like, my husband does all the cooking because he's amazing. And see that? I'm trying to hold it up without it falling. That.
Oh my God, of thunder.
I know. And do you know what's even better? Right? I made this myself. This is a Malteser. Seriously, this is a Malteser cheesecake. Now, the base, you don't normally cheesecake, you do digestive biscuits. This is a whole packet of chocolate malted milks. So it's malted milk biscuits with chocolate on. Yeah, whole packet. Mixed it in with some butter. Yeah, mix it in with some butter. Put it down on the tin, and then this bit here, right?
Yeah.
This is like a tub of cream, double cream, whipped up.
Yeah.
And you know they do Malteser spread, which is like chocolate spread with Malteser little pieces, balls in, yeah? Whole jar of that.
Oh my God.
Plus a tub of Philadelphia. And then on top of that, there's, because you know you've got to get all the Maltesers in, there's a box of Maltesers crushed all over the top. And then like a few balls just to finish it off.
So yeah,
oh my God,
I think I would have such a sugar high. I'd probably be running around the park for the next 3 days. That's a lot of sugar. I can't let that near my child. Okay, I cannot let that near my child.
I have to eat it over an extended. Yeah, I have to eat it over an extended period of time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'd have to sliver it.
Yeah. And Alison has got, was it mince pies?
Oh yeah, I've got mince pies. So
mulled wine.
I've got Aldi's specially selected, and I also have
specially selected. Excellent.
Mini specially selected, so there's teeny tiny ones. Oh yeah. And then also as a bit of a savoury starter, I've got some sweet chili crackers and sushi in the fridge. Oh yeah. We
are stocked up and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm only in tier 2, so do you know what I mean? I've got it covered. Thank you.
This is it. So because we're kind of talking about like self-care and sort of like friends and family and stuff. So we've got to take care of ourselves, and that starts with obviously.
I have to say cheers, because this is really good, because I haven't seen you for ages. Given how much of a disappointment this week has been for so many people, it's really nice to actually see somebody and it not be, oh God, Christmas is going to be crap. It's actually, we can chat about some other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to Christmas. I was doing what I was going to probably be doing even without the pandemic. So, you know,
Yeah. Excellent. So, where to start? They're basically they were kind of, I suppose it's 2 main things that that's going to talk about. So aside from Alison being a great friend, someone to chat to, that really helps, besides anything else. But there's 2 things that Alison has been really, and I've got to say thank you so much for this. One is that I think from working in a similar field but different. So as a lived experience practitioner, so for anyone who's wondering what the chuff is, that's I haven't had enough Baileys to say fuck yet. I just did.
I'm going to hold my hand up here, but you might need to get a bleep machine because you know I chat and it don't need alcohol to chat like that. So
It don't.
I
Do you know what?
apologise if I offend
It's
people with
fine,
the
like,
words that come out,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
for emphasis, not because I'm ignorant.
I'm not gonna bleep you out. I'm not going to censor you.
Don't cancel me! Don't cancel me!
Yeah. So, yeah. So
I haven't even had that much to drink yet. Go on.
what was I saying? Oh yeah. So basically, as a lived experience practitioner, I'm using my lived experience of a mental health condition openly within the work that I do, and loads of people like me. You've probably heard of peer support workers, if anyone's watching. Lived experience researchers, service user researchers, survivor researchers, who've got all different titles. And I'm somewhere in between. I do lived experience research, but also kind of consultancy, facilitation, training, blah, 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 various different things. So anyway, I'm in Down T. We experience a huge amount of discrimination that isn't really, the level of it isn't really documented. And basically, I've experienced a lot of workplace discrimination kind of over the best part of the last decade, I suppose. And yeah, I'm finally at the point of doing something about it after a long time of sort of trying, very hard. So yeah, one of the great things, and this is what I was going to talk about, rather than sort of like dwelling on that side, is that Alison, through her, it's been through kind of like your both professional and personal experience has been something that's really helped. So I think obviously Alison does, like, you do a huge amount of work sort of in line with so your work covers a lot of things, but it particularly covers like discrimination that people experience and the impact and the trauma that causes, and also being able to work with that as well. But there was I'm just trying to think of the conversation we'd had earlier, which is that so you're saying that although your work doesn't include your because you're saying, well, I'm not a lived experience practitioner, but we were saying what the similarities were between the work that we do. And that you were talking about kind of like how you use your sort of like your experience and your essentially your body and how you feel it kind of right within the work that you do, and kind of talking about the like the similar impact that has. So yeah, do you want to elaborate on that, because you were just saying it so well. And also I'm saying, do you want to talk about it, because you know I've got
can I just take one moment to pause, because you know I'm cooking while I'm talking to you, and I was trying to be all subtle with it, but I need to turn my oven off before I create things.
Yeah, just carry on.
I did put it in a chat. Can I just say, I was trying to be really discreet and put it in a chat and be all like, okay, let's do this real professional, but actually I don't want to burn my dinner.
You know what? I've just seen it in the chat. So I'm just going to take food out of oven. Can we pause recording briefly?
It's all good.
Yeah, you know.
I'm taking my food out of the oven.
You know what? Let's entertain people while we do this.
People know it's real. It's all real.
Yeah, it's real. It's all real. Yeah. But you know what? I think this is great, because in a way it kind of illustrates how, you know, how much we have to use resources that aren't they're not paid for. They're not kind of, we have to essentially, we're using informal resources as support, and to be able to make resources for other people and support other people. Like, we literally have to do this from our bedrooms, from our kitchens, you know in the middle of what we're
It's really interesting that you've mentioned this, because I was having this conversation, and it does fit in with what we're talking about, is that As I said, I'm trained in youth and community work, and one of the things that I love about my whole sector is the fact that we are very much taught about how to be adaptable and to roll with situations. You have to be. Teenagers are very unpredictable, and so you need to be. It's not even about false positivity. It's always about solution. So okay, this has gone wrong, but what's the next thing we can do? Or okay, it's gone wrong. Why has it gone wrong? Okay, we'll deal with that and let's try again. But and in this kind of pandemic, even though I'm not actually actively in youth work, seeing that played out, it's kind of interesting because I'm watching it now being played out in people's lives as well, where people are really rolling with it. And I don't know if you remember, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was invited to speak on a podcast specifically about the impact of COVID on B&E communities and their mental health. And on that podcast, one of the things, there was actually a CPN, a community psychiatric nurse, who was on there. And he was also noting that most of his clients were actually doing all right, and not because they're somehow more resilient, but we're used to living with uncertainty. We're very used to it not going the way we thought it was going to go. We're very used to, you know, out of nowhere, suddenly, okay, we're going to have to death plans completely, and now we're in this situation. That's our normal. That's our normal. And I think it's been kind of fascinating, both as somebody who lives with mental illness, but also somebody who's kind of connected adjacent to the profession, watching people that, you know, you see them on the 10th of October and they do their be kind and reach out and this and the other, and they have no coping, they have no tools, they have no mechanisms, and they're really struggling. And it's kind of weird because the mentals, all us madams, we're doing all right. I mean, I'm not saying that we're all doing all right, but a lot of us are doing better than we really should have been.
Yeah.
You know, which is again something that I don't think necessarily, you know, particularly for you with this, with the discrimination thing. And this is where this intersection around race and gender, particularly that whole strong black woman trope, when you've got those two forces coming at you, which is, well, you know, I've had to deal with worse, I should be able to deal with this. And then also, my ancestors dealt with worse than this. I have no place to feel like I'm not coping. It puts you in a really quite vulnerable position, but you still got to persevere. And then we still got the pandemic around it as well to deal with.
Yeah.
That bit's easy. Like, dealing with the pandemic compared to this bit is like, yeah, we can wear a mask and not have to deal with people. Good God, it's great. It's like, legitimately, I can glare at people in the shop when they're too close. It's like, back up. Hey, I love it. Love it. Living my best life behind that mask.
Yeah. And do you know what's fascinating is this is exactly what I've heard, and I think through things like the Mad COVID Diaries, where we've got
wine, you know.
Yeah, we need wine, I think. Well, I need Baileys, but hey, but yeah, we've got something called Mad COVID Diaries, and that's a website that's been set up by people who have lived experience, for people who've got lived experience of mental health conditions, and people have been writing sort of diaries about how they're getting on. But it's quite interesting that a lot of people have said, again, this isn't everybody, but it's an experience that a lot of people share, which is where they say, actually, do you know what, things haven't changed that much for me since COVID. It's just that actually now everyone else is experiencing it as well, and they're kind of getting a taste of what we have
I've got my
experience
out
all the time. Get your crackers out, it's fine. We'll be getting more crackers as it goes on, so hey. But yeah, so it's really interesting you say that. And then I'm thinking that from the because also been working with the National Institute of Health Research, and we've done some of the COVID research, and from talking to people in the interviews, I think a similar thing has come through. I mean, people have I mean, obviously it's not like a some kind of box of chocolates. Going back to all the special analogies, but it's special.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just like, we went Forrest Gump. Okay, we went Forrest Gump. Nah.
Yeah. Already.
That's so many levels are wrong.
Yeah. Okay. but essentially, like, what can I say? You know, people are used to their whatever they get in their box of chocolates, and now they're kind of, you know, there might be a few added kind of, I mean, obviously it's difficult for everyone, but I think essentially it was, like you said, it's not probably as bad as you would have thought. Plus I think within mental health services there's been a I think there's been a lot more people who haven't received services that are now kind of, so there's a lot more, I think, new people that are coming to services. So when they're talking about increased mental health need, I think it we've got people that already have diagnosis that are known to services, but then I think there's a lot of other people as well that are that are struggling on top of that, and that's particularly where a lot of the increase comes in, I think. So and again, it's not true in every single that's not true in every single case, but it's
No.
you
And
know,
I was going to say, I think the other thing that's really interesting is that where that increase is coming from, because actually, yes, there's been an increase in people accessing services, but in reality, for example, Black Minds Matter launched as a charity over summer. They've got the most monumental waiting list. It is ridiculous. And it's not because there isn't Black therapists, it's where they're concentrated. So, for example, if you're living in somewhere like Islington, Islington Mental Health Services are notoriously being phenomenal at offering loads and loads and loads, like a big range of services, and particularly targeted services. So Islington attracts a lot of research and experimental. So there's lots of pilot stuff that go on in Islington, and it's great. But if you ain't in the South East or in London, how the hell are you going to access those services? Now, obviously, because we're now using a lot more Zoom, that's great. But even with that, there's a whole, the numbers in our community, in Black community, in BAME communities, particularly around suicide, particularly around self-harm, particularly around addiction, and when you also factor in what are our traditional routes into accessing mental health services, most people are coming through either criminal justice or A&E admissions. They're not coming through the GP. They're coming through in extreme cases, and it's like, so it's and again, this is where that whole crossover between personal, professional, and political happens, because as a professional, knowing what the picture is, how on earth are you supposed to have hope as an individual who fits into all those demographics where it's like, and then the system is inherently flawed against you, and then you're in this kind of weird loop, which is like, it shouldn't be this hard to fight, but there are plenty of other people who don't have this knowledge, who can't fight, so I have to fight. But when do I get to be ill? When do I get to receive the service or receive the support, rather than like try to fix it while I'm not well myself,
And then, do you know what you've just said has sparked off a thought as well, where you were talking about some services that are a lot more ahead, they offer a lot more services to diverse communities. And I just had this light bulb moment where I was thinking, oh yeah, because you mentioned in Islington, and I'm thinking that from what I know of that trust, it's been a lot more open to lived experience practitioner working, and it would seem that if you've got equality kind of right at the core of your organisation, that then applies. Boom, yeah. You see, if it's genuine, it then applies to yeah. And this is something that that I've noticed. And it's something that really frustrates me with like there's equality drives that happen, and I think I put a really ranty tweet about it the other day where I said basically I'm sick and tired of seeing these like equality drives where and it says, I have to contextualize this because sometimes people say I hate seeing these equality drives because everyone matters and all the rest of it, and it was
sorry, I can't hide my face even when I'm eating because everyone matters.
Yeah,
everyone matters.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that just absolutely does my head in as well, definitely. But it's kind of coming from the other end of the scale. It's like, actually, if you really care about equality, then you're looking at marginalised groups, and even within, okay, if you're even just going to concentrate on people from non-white backgrounds, even within that you have intersections. And one of the things that really frustrated me is I was thinking mental health organisations. So a mental health organisation primary focus is mental health. So out of your staff, out of your Black and your Asian staff, who are going to be the ones who are the most vulnerable in this organisation, because we're looking at organisations that often provide services to people with mental health conditions have often got the biggest amount of stigma amongst the staff for you can't, I mean, you wouldn't you can't really go into work and say, oh, having a bit of a bipolar day today, or bit of psychosis on the weekend. You just can't, so
again, this is very interesting because as we and this is one of the things, so the diversity and inclusion training that I try and deliver is intersectional, and my sort of blind spots are around ableism, my own internalized ableism, as well as where I perpetuate ableism because I just don't know. So it's kind of interesting to me as somebody with a mental health condition that I'm always really conscious that I know what the legal definition of a disabling condition is. Absolutely, when my mental health can take me out of work for 6 to 12 to 24 months at a time, that is a disabling condition. But I'm very reluctant to label myself in that way. So I really get trying to fit that intersection into the work that I'm trying to do. But the core of intersectionality is if you center your focus and your resources around meeting the needs of the most marginalized, whether that's in your client group, whether that's within your staff group, if you're meeting the most marginalized people in your organization's needs, then you will automatically meet the needs of other marginalized groups up and up. And this is what I don't think, whether they like it or not, cis, heterosexual, white, male, able-bodied men, basically, are the ones whose needs are always met. They're inherently met because that's the system that we live in. And actually catering to their needs will always be met. It doesn't take anything. Their needs will not be met because we focus with the people who most need support. And that's essentially the crux of intersectionality. And it's been taken to mean all this kind of, oh, it's divisive because I'm a one-legged trans non-binary. Do you know what I mean? And it's used to mock us, and it's like, no, it's real simple. It is really simple. If you have somebody in your organisation who has mobility access needs, who also might have audio or communication needs, if you meet their needs, then automatically anybody else who has a mobility access issue, their needs are going to be met.
Yes, and this, do you know what? Thank you for putting it that way, because you've just put something so beautifully that I've been trying to say, and I haven't had the words for it. So thank you, because this is something that and it sounds so there are two ways that you've explained this. The one is about meeting the needs of the most marginalised, and the other has been where you've spoken of basically having a debilitating mental health illness, but still not, you know, kind of like seeing yourself in that way, or you kind of like work within mental health, but that's not been the, you're kind of like not working with that from that lens, if that makes sense. Well, so the kind of like there's a difference. Yeah,
I will own it completely. Where I finally sort of recognized and identified myself was when I was working for a national charity, and I was doing this really like high level job. You know, I've got a geographic area that's gigantic that I'm supposed to cover, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to people, basically, you know, lived experience people, well, not even practitioners. This is people telling their stories, and in the past, yes, I'm listening, but it's always been, yeah, you know, that could have so easily been me, da, 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 da. And there was nothing in this man's story. What he was telling me was nothing to do with my life. The man had been in the care system, he'd been in the criminal justice system, all this stuff. But I don't know what it was about the way he was saying it. I was like, oh my God, that's me. Do you know what I mean? And it suddenly, it was like, this is bollocks. They are me, I am them. Yeah. And it's why I reclaim that language. It's why I use things like, I refer to myself as crazy. I refer to things that are happening to me as insane. Not because I'm stigmatizing myself, because I feel insane sometimes. And that's the language other people understand. And it's like, you know, if I'm just like, well, you know, my mind's not really focusing on things, and, you know, I'm a bit foggy in that. No, crazy. That's what it feels like. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because I should know this. You know, it's not like I'm new to this, to diversity. It's not like I'm new to equalities. But even I'm like, it's not quite the same as, oh my God, I'm Black. But it's like, okay, actually, I've got to look a lot about where this ableism comes from. And unfortunately, again, you know, when people say it's always about race, this is what intersectionality is. If you're going to put any kind of intersection against any kind of marginalization, Black people, particularly Black women, will always come at the bottom, whether they're disabled, whether they are older, whether they are LGBTQ. You know, it will always be Black that brings them right at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it's not oppression Olympics, it's backed by statistical fact. And it's not helped by, as I say, those tropes around strong Black women, you know. And that's also, again, inherently linked with colonialism and this idea that we don't feel pain in the same way, and the dehumanization of Black people and Black bodies. It's like, well, they're not really human. They don't feel so, you know, it doesn't matter. We are the work uses, the emotional mule, the, you know, we'll just pick up the slack. Keep going.
And this is
Sorry,
this is
something so depressing.
No.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. You know, it's not like that. It's, but yeah, that's how the hierarchy works.
Yeah. And I think in the NHS particularly, it's well recognised that when you look at the hierarchies, you get basically, so, oh yeah, we've got loads of Black workers, we've got loads of, you know, non-white workers. So yes, and where are they? And this is, you know, with the what's it, WRES, work workforce racial equality standard, that's it. And where they're looking at the bandings, and it's like, where are our sort of non-white workers? So, oh yeah, there's loads here. But band 2, 3, 4, there were a few at 5, and it's like a triangle, isn't it? But like, the thing is, work structures are like a triangle anyway, and this is more like a, it's more like a slight hill, maybe. Because what they say is that you've got loads of people sort of on these bottom rungs. You have one or two, you just have, the equivalent of a sprinkling that kind of get beyond. So when it comes to, I think what they said is the ceiling generally is what you call a band 8. So a band 8 is only just when you get to strategy and when you get to decision making. So that's only just. But then when you, so because it goes band 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, then you've got your 9, which I think is assist. I don't quite know how all this stuff goes, but then you've got your board level and stuff. And essentially, people are kind of like stuck at there. So definitely, you're looking at the most marginalised group of staff. So the point that has really frustrated me and that I've been trying to make is that when you work in mental health, the most marginalised and stigmatised group within, because there's different contexts, aren't there? But particularly within a mental health organisation, mental health is probably the most, I'd say, the most marginalised rung of the ladder. And that applies also within, I think, particularly within the staff side. It's something that just can't be said. It's so taboo. So when you get a section of the workforce that actually has to work like openly with a mental health condition, you're going to naturally go right down to the bottom of the pile. And when you look at the intersection within lived experience practitioner working, if you look at it nationally, what you find is it's a massive chunk. Most of us are white. I think it's predominantly female. There's probably a lot more women than men that do it. Again, that's interesting when you think about it. It's such a marginalised, stigmatised job. Women are more represented, but this is where I think it's shocking in a way, because men, even white men, who naturally have a lot of privilege, when they have a mental health kind of like label on their head while they're working, and that's part of the work that they do, and they're being open about it, even they are kind of trapped. So within lived experience working, you often don't get below, where I work, band 2, that's like cleaner kind of domestic wages is the kind of the main thing, but you very rarely get people going above band 4, which is kind of like it's one of the lower bands. But this is what frustrates me, because it's mainly kind of it's predominantly white people, and then because it's so stigmatized, basically you're not even going to get non-white people employed. You very, very, very rarely get non-white people employed in lived experience working. And I don't know if it's for I think there's maybe two ways that you could look at that. One is that if white people are struggling to get jobs in it, then if you're right at the bottom of the pile and you're not white, you ain't going to get anywhere near it. The other thing is that actually mental health services, there's people can be treated so bad. Obviously not everybody, but a lot of people have got a really, really bad experience of mental health services. And particularly, again, who falls to the bottom of that? You get your non-white people. So why then, this is something that Pramila Trivedi said in one of her papers, and I loved it, which is, I said, actually, okay, so we're mad, but we're not that mad. We're not going to come back and flip and help you and kind of, do you know what I mean? Tell you how to improve it after we've been through what we've been through. And this is where I come back to being so angry at this kind of, I keep calling it an equality drive, because I don't see it as being equal, because what you've been saying is the most marginalised people, those are the people that you help within an organisation. And basically, I think we, you know, movement has been trying to say this for so long, within the context of mental health, you know, and not been listened to. And then I kind of, I look at kind of an organisation kind of having an equality drive over racism. I'm thinking, okay, you're featuring all these different Black staff, and you kind of, I've not seen one lived experience practitioner who is Black amongst all these like featured people. And that's what I mean, the most marginalised people.
I also wonder how much of it is, so for example, let's say I wanted to go for a lived experience practitioner role. Technically, I qualify because I'm in the Professional Services. You know, I would probably pick something that is in my realm because I've worked in mental health campaigns, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the narrative of Black people. We're only allowed to have things like, you know, personality disorders, or, you know, bipolar disorder, or have been under section or hospitalized. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, we got enough repping depression and anxiety and PTSD, you know. You're not a little bit like, you know, madder. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, seriously, when I remember talking, and this was when I was working for a youth mental health organisation, and I actually was talking to, can I say who it is? Or should I not?
I don't mind.
Okay, well, I was talking to
you
from AWP, which is Avon and Wiltshire Partnership, who run all our mental health services. But this is in a professional context as a youth worker. And I actually said, well, as a service user, my experience is X, Y, Z. And she said, oh, are you under mental health services? And I said, well, yeah, I'm under Bristol Mental Health Centre, under assessment and recovery team, blah, blah, blah. Currently being assessed for complex intervention, psychological intervention, because I was. And she actually turned around and said, oh, so what is wrong with you? Like, literally, what is wrong with you? And I said,
hey, what is wrong with you, Alison?
I know, well, this is why I'm in therapy, or trying to get it, to find out what the flaming hell is wrong with me. You know, 42 years and I still haven't worked it out. But yeah, no, she legit asked me what's wrong with me.
Could be all the crap you've been through, could it?
You know.
Sorry, yeah.
But yeah, she asked me what's wrong with me, and then she asked me, and when I told her, her response was, oh, so it's just depression. I was just like, yeah, it's just depression. Thankfully, like my boss, like my manager, when we were leaving there, she was losing her mind. She was just like, oh my God, how you didn't just lay it to that. She was like proper, but that is the expectation. You know, if I'm gonna be mad, I have to be proper mad, machete wielding, off my face, dangerous. Otherwise, it doesn't count. You know.
Oh my God! Do you know what this is? This is another thing that lived experience practitioners often face, which is that, oh, you're not like our service users. I'm kind of like, no, the people that
but I am
work
your
with
service user. What are you chatting about?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, you know, to be fair, you're only going to see your service users when they're, you know, if you work in acute care, you're only going to see them when they need acute care. You're not going to see them when they don't need acute care.
When you see them going about their job, you know, because they're well, I mean, it's like, could you imagine like a flaming oncologist telling somebody in remission, oh my God, I can't believe you ever had cancer because you look so healthy now. It's like, but isn't that kind of the point of your job?
Yeah.
Did it not work? Am I missing something here? What the? For the love of cheese. Or a diabetes specialist telling them, well, you're not looking quite so hypo today. What the hell?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
you would never do that.
No. And also I think it really diminishes what it particularly when it's when you're living with something that's chronic, it really diminishes what you've been through, but also what you're living with and what can potentially can be your experience in the future. You know, it's kind of
and it also,
yeah.
I'm not being funny, but it means that essentially in order to get support, you have to present as crazy enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I was having this conversation with you just earlier on, and I saw my care coordinator, and I'm basically explaining that I'm pretty much isolated simply because of the situation, and also because my mates have got a lot of stuff going on in their lives, as you would imagine. And it's not just because of COVID. There's a lot of stuff going on in some of my mates' lives, regardless of COVID, you know. And this woman basically tried to say that I need to get better friends because she wanted to know if am I reaching out for help? And I'm thinking, but me telling you this here now, isn't that me reaching out for help from a professional? Just because I'm not bawling and smelling like I haven't showered for, like, 3 days, doesn't mean I'm not asking for help. Or do I need to do that and then you'll maybe go, oh, okay, and it's so, like I say, you wouldn't make a cancer patient jump through hoops to prove that they're not feeling it today. And I know there's a lot of people that might think, well, you can't compare cancer. Actually, cancer is something that you live with sometimes for quite a long time before you realise what is actually going on.
Yeah.
Even after it allegedly goes, you're never actually 100% sure. You have that in the back, and that's the same with if you've ever had any kind of, severe mental crisis. Yeah, you might recover from it, but having been through that, you can never know that it might not happen again.
Yeah. And also I think the cancer analogy is comparable in that people die. People with mental health conditions, chronic mental health conditions die. With the diagnosis that I have, I've got I think it's a 19-year less life expectancy than normals, kind of thing. If you want to, than people without the same diagnosis. Yeah, what is normal? But essentially, that's shocking, isn't it? Almost 2 decades less life when you've got the diagnosis that I have, and I've got several diagnoses, but and actually, I mean, when I think about it, people in my family who've been through similar trauma that I have, they probably didn't have the same diagnosis as me, but my mum died at 47, my brother died at 27, seizures, but there was the mental health side as well. And oftentimes you have health inequalities with mental health anyway. So yeah, I don't know where I started chatting and where that's come from, but
well, no, but I mean,
yeah,
well, yeah. And because we
cancer, how it's similar,
but again, we talk about intersections, and as women of colour living in this country, the amount of physical health inequalities that there are on top of the mental health inequalities. Like, as a Black woman, African Caribbean woman, I'm 7 times more likely to be placed under a mandatory hold than a white woman. And when you consider under the COVID laws, that's an automatic 72-hour hold. I have a child.
And
that means that I then hit the parameter for her to then enter the care system. That's another mixed race child into the care system. That's a mixed race girl in the care system. That's another statistic. We all know. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's that real tightrope of being just crazy enough to warrant getting support, but not too crazy that you end up in a system that you know is inherently not designed to support you.
Yeah.
It's there to contain you.
And do you know something from what you're saying, and you know how earlier you were saying actually I have chronic mental health condition, but I don't really think of myself as that way. And it's funny that when people talk about people being in care or kind of being under CAMHS and what have you, in my head I think about that as being kind of a world away, but actually it's not a world away, because my my aunts and uncles spent time in care, so they were part of the care system. You know, again, they were black as well, black mixed race, much more likely to be in care. And then when I think about it as well, we've got, you know, my family. Actually, we've been under CAMHS, and I keep forgetting that I've ever been under CAMHS, you know, and that you know, particularly my my youngest brother, but also the you know, sort of all of us were. But it's interesting that and people who I know will know that I say this a lot, which is that coming from a mixed race family and kind of having different shades of skin, and particularly in an immediate family where you're all kind of like full blood siblings. It's not even that we're kind of like stepbrothers, stepsisters.
Absolutely.
So we're all kind of like same parents, same same. I mean, you don't have exactly the same experience, but
well,
you
no,
know, it's
do now look like brother and sister, but when we were growing up, my brother looked mixed race, but clearly with a black parent. I just looked black Indian. That's what I used to get. Are you Jamaican Indian? And a lot of the time, people didn't think my mum was my mum. They figured that I was the child from the black wife, and that my dad had remarried and had my brother. Whereas actually, no, in fact, they weren't even married when they had me. Yes, in fact, it was their wedding anniversary yesterday. I was at their wedding, thank you, 7 months old. And planned for, don't get me wrong, this was the plan. Because they wanted to buy a house in Birmingham. So that was why they didn't get married until they moved to Birmingham and had the baby. And yeah, you know, a lot of the time, and weirdly enough, I was talking to my cousin about this, because again, she's in a similar situation. She looks, well, you've seen the photo of my cousin, she looks like she literally stepped off a boat from Manila. She literally does look like a Filipino woman. But when she's in the Philippines, I can tell she's mixed. However, her brother looks a lot more like what South Africans expect a Cape Coloured to look like. So again, she had that experience of nobody believed that her parents were her parents. They thought she was adopted. They thought she was a refugee child that had been adopted. And, you know, so again, having to prove your identity as a child, and then prove your identity, whether it's you're not black enough, or you're too black, you know, you're not womanly enough, or you're too girly. You know, it's exhausting. You're not mentally, you're too mental. When do I just get to be? You know, just the bit where you just be. And this is how it comes. It comes in this version today.
Yeah.
You know?
And isn't it interesting that that's part of the criteria for emotionally unstable personality disorder, which is that you don't have a stable sense of self. But
how are you meant to? How are you meant to? And do you know what? It's really funny, because this was my conversation with my cousin the other day. This is the one in America now. And we were having this conversation about code switching. I don't know, have you ever seen the thing on Netflix called Big Mouth? it's like a cartoon thing. I haven't watched it, but I've got it on my list to watch. And like everybody's been saying to me, not only as a youth worker, but they were like, that I'd really like it. And apparently in the 4th season, so I saw a clip from one of the episodes. In the 4th season, they focus on the mixed race character who is Black and Jewish. And there's a whole song talking about code switching. And that thing of, I remember very clearly, this is what me and my cousin was talking about, is being at university. And as you know, I went to university in Lancaster. I was like the only Black person in my halls of residence. I was the only Black person on my course. I just remember wandering around one night, just being like, who the fuck am I? Because I'd been sort of like at uni student, then I had to deal with the doctors, then I had to deal with some finance people, then I got hauled up by the police, then I had to deal with like this, and then I had to deal with my halls of residence. And it was just a bit like, I didn't feel like I'd been Black all day. Do you know what I mean? And then it was like, what the hell are you doing? You're having to be Black? What is it? You just are. Yeah, and I ended up going for a massive walk, just like, I don't understand. It was mad. But because I was 19, I just figured, oh, that's 19-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what happens when you're a teenager and a twat? But you know, I think that is still in us.
Yeah.
When we've got to hold it together and hold all those facades of versions of ourselves to even attempt to get our needs met. But they want to tell you about, oh, but you know, you need to prioritize your needs. You're important. You're valuable. Yeah. I'm trying here.
And do you know something? As you were talking there, I had this little light bulb go off. I can't remember what the fucking light bulb was.
You and your damn light bulbs. I've done told you. Below 40 watt, soft light, yellow, warm. Good for your skin.
Yeah. There was what were you saying at the beginning? There was something about that because talking about stable sense of self, weren't we, or something?
You know, where you've got to, you know, the version of you that's mad enough or not mad enough, and Black enough to be Black, and or too white, or white enough, or do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're too girly or not womanly enough, and whatever.
And then there was something about that where I was talking about sort of different shades within an immediate family, and seeing how differently each of us have kind of coped and been sort of treated around our sort of mental health. So, you know, if somebody looks at me kind of and just sort of takes what's on the tin and doesn't look very closely, and like yourself, you can just tell these things, but but you know, this kind of you know, the idea of sort of women with emotionally unstable personality disorder, and they tend to be sort of like you know, tend to get diagnosed in mid-20s. It's generally women that don't conform, so either too girly or too, you know, gender-wise, you're either extreme end of girly, extreme end of not girly.
Well, no, you're either butch or in denial.
Butch or femme, yeah, butch or femme.
You're in denial.
Yeah.
Because did I tell you about this? I have a lesbian haircut. And basically, a woman tried to convince me that I was a lesbian. I had to say to her, right, let me tell you, I am definitely 110% sure I am not a lesbian. That doesn't mean I'm not attracted to women. It means that I'm not exclusively attracted to women, which is kind of the criteria for being a lesbian. Woman wasn't having it. Woman was not having it. I know you're a lesbian. No, love. No. I went to school with 800 other girls. I really would have realised if I was a lesbian around all of them. Come on.
But oftentimes it's people that only can see in these binaries, and they don't see that they can be both, or you can sort of like be sort of mainly that one, but a little bit of that one, and
well, Yeah, I mean, to be fair, and again, these are, you know, when you say these things, and it's really interesting, and I don't want to hijack and start talking about the stuff that I'm doing, but like the more I'm kind of thinking about how I'm developing this platform, one of the reasons why the name, and I've told you this, but if you're all right with it, I'd like to share, is is that, you know, obviously the madness
Cancel culture. No. Sorry.
Yeah, today cancel culture is a bit of a trigger for me. It's a little bit of a I don't think the people watching this need to see me go off on cancel. No one's cancelled. Nobody is cancelled. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Oh God, before I burn the one.
And tell us about the revolution.
Well, no, I mean,
oh, is it? Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, so the whole reason why I came with this whole thing about being a mad black pixie, is, as I say, the madness is obviously through the mental health element, but this idea of, you know, I'm angry all the time because black women are angry. Well, actually, we've got a fucking right to be angry. I'm not being funny. Actually, angry is kind of understandable. It's better angry than homicidal, vengeful. You know,
or in denial. Because you're in denial. I mean, let's face it, that probably is psychotic.
Yeah. So, you know, the reality is, I'm going to own my anger. Of course I'm angry. I'm fucking angry. But I'm dealing with it, you know, I'm channeling it. And, you know, so, you know, white people are still alive. So we ain't switched. We're all good. But the whole black pixie element of it is to do with those boxes that they put us into. Now, my mate used to call me black pixie as a bit of a joke because I'm not very big, and she's like, you're a bit stealthy, you just appear like out of nowhere, like a pixie, like and you're a bit cheeky, a little bit mischievous, and you just kind of ping appear. But actually, I've
never noticed that about you.
What, just appear out of nowhere? Boom! When you least expect it. Da-da! With a bit of magic. Boom!
No, I meant about being a little bit cheeky, you know.
Oh, no.
Nah.
Oh, no. More respect me, you know. No, but yeah, so she used to call me that, and she's like, yeah, you could be in Fern Gully. But the other thing about it is, and this is a genuine thing, is it's that role that you get cast in, and it's that magical Negro, magical pixie girl, you know, and I have to say, particularly in lockdown, I'm noticing it even more where, I don't know, do you watch Famalam? Have you ever seen Famalam on BBC? Right, they do a sketch with this black girl with a white friend. The white friend's going on about, oh, her boyfriend might be cheating, and then her mama's doing this, and then she comes to the black girl and she's kind of like, well, I wanted to talk about my things. Oh my God, I just can't take it. I have too much of my life. And I'm like, that is the role I'm allowed to be in. I have to be the one that takes it all, and you know, I absorb all the trauma, and I get all badass and kick-ass on behalf of them, but God help them if, you know, I might be struggling and I go, you know, oh, it's just too much for me, it's too much for my mental health. And it's like, are you sure about this here? Are reciprocity? And it sounds like I'm being a bitch about it, but it's actually like, you know, Sex in the City, that film, Jennifer Hudson, how she does not beat down Sarah Jessica Parker when she does exactly that, where she basically uses this black woman to offload all her bad choices and emotional crap, and then basically bogs off, and then kind of sends her a load of cool stuff to kind of go, yeah, I still think of you. It's like, really? And that's kind of the role. And if you complain about that, then you're angry and ungrateful, and, you know, want to cut a bitch, which I do, but it's not because of that. That's just me. No, on a real though, you know, it's that thing of, yeah, we're and we're only allowed. I think it's a Jeannie Ashery sketch where she talks about there's only two versions of black women in Hollywood. You're either Halle Berry or Precious, and that's kind of again. No, it's true though.
It is, isn't it?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And that's again that role that they put women in. And you know, the black friend, you're allowed to be. So if you're fat, if you're dark skinned, if you're geeky, you're not fashionable or on trend, then you're like, you know, the lovable, kind friend who is completely non-sexual and is just there for the skinny white girl to dump on. Or you can be the little mouthy ghetto, I'll cut a bitch one, with the air of hypersexual. She just needs to be shagged by the right man and she will calm her shit down. That's the role I get cast into, and it's kind of like.
We know what it is, Alison. You've got to be shagged by the right woman. That's what it is.
But the right lesbian, isn't it?
Yeah.
but do you know what I mean? It's like there's anything that deviates from that, and so as soon as you start sort of speaking out against things, particularly when you're speaking out against discrimination, and again, this is something that stepping out of my kind of mental health role, but with my equalities sort of discrimination law knowledge and stuff. If you look at people bringing tribunals, if you look at how many people don't even get to tribunal, you know, quite often it is women. And it's because we're exhausted. We just haven't the energy to keep fighting it. And it has taken years to get to that point, you know. Not only that, was it 2015, I think, that they introduced the fee. So you weren't allowed to, the only way you could go to tribunal and the cost would be covered would be if it was a class action. Well, that's not going to happen unless it's sector-wide. And even then, depends on what your sector is. So,
it has to be the same. It has to be the same organisation as well, doesn't it? I think for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the problem. Yeah.
So with class action, so like if when it was coming to like the teachers and things like that, individual teachers couldn't take people to the tribunal. They couldn't unless it was part of a wider union action. And the Tories got found for that to be unlawful. So that got reversed. I think it's 2018 that got reversed. So now that isn't there, but there was a 3-4 year gap of people not having any kind of legal recourse unless they have funds.
Yeah.
And also, again, similar to you, they didn't get union representation because, again, unions didn't have the resources to be able to support people because most people can't afford to go to the tribunal.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you talk about sort of it mainly being women, people of colour, people who are already tired and they're getting more tired. And one of the things that really, it's got to me more and more actually, was that since I was, when I was in hospital at the same time, there was another lived experience practitioner. So she was black, I'm mixed race, we're both lived experience practitioners, we're both women. You know, and again, kind of, I don't know, it got to me. We were there at the same time. There's also someone else from the same organisation who was there as well. But, you know, non-lived experience practitioner role, sort of, there were white as well. I don't know, I'm not sure if there was more. I don't know how to say this, but like the manager came to see them. I just felt like maybe there was more empathy amongst their work, not their immediate kind of work colleagues or team or something. I don't know that, and maybe not, but I just kind of got that feeling was kind of like myself and my colleague, we kind of, I mean, we're all in there for like work based issues essentially, but ours were more to do with discrimination. And you know, we weren't it's not like we had anyone from work come in to see us. I mean, I was very lucky in that I've got good friends like yourself. And I know you couldn't come all the way from Bristol up to where I was, but you know,
I was ringing.
You was ringing, yeah. And also other people were visiting, and kind of, you know, I was actually really.
Was that when you did Mad Studies from in hospital?
Yes.
See, I wasn't just ringing. I was zooming.
Yeah.
I was zooming.
There were 40 people on that course, so this is the thing. You get your
Really?
love from
I never realised that. That's awesome. Oh man.
Yeah. 40 people on Mad Studies. It was amazing. That's the biggest ever crowd, and I think it was because it's basically saying, "Come to Mad Studies. It's from the actual asylum."
Yeah. Come check out the madness.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
on the mad ass here.
Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting. But I think this again is where I've kind of where it's grated me, kind of like coming back and seeing that kind of whole equality drive and people being featured and that, and then thinking, I don't see any mad people amongst that. Where's the mad black people? Why? Where's the people who are really, you know, sort of right at the bottom of that? And like, I'm thinking, there's, you know, as my colleague has been in hospital, okay, I don't look, you know, obviously non-white, you know, not, but
to the untrained eye, as I said to you before.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I knew.
This is it. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not so worried about about my mug being up there, but I would like to see at least people that that I kind of identify with and who are particularly marginalised. So yeah, I do want to see a you know, if you're doing all your black stuff, I want to see a black LXP up there as well, because you can guarantee if you put all of your staff up there by how discriminated they are, I bet you that black LXP will be right at the bottom, you know. So why not celebrate them? So I don't know. And also it's nice for me as an LXP, but also an LXP of colour as well. No matter how people see me, you know, I'm still inside. I'm still mixed inside. And
I don't told
you know, I want to see people that I identify with, even if I don't know. I identify with both, and I don't just want to see one side. I want to see, and obviously you always see white people up there. So when you see black people, that's great. But I also want to see some mad black people, you know. So
and not mad black people doing criminal shit or real shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, the reality is that, as I say, you know, even within our illness, we are expected to conform to what white standards are. And so, you know, it's quite interesting. I was talking about this, I can't remember where it was actually. But, you know, this idea of back in the 80s, if you were a black male and reported anything that sounded like any kind of psychosis, whether it was auditory or visual, immediately you must have schizophrenia. That was it. That was just a blanket diagnosis for black and male, dangerous. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, that's it. And there's no leaving that diagnosis. And so, you know, again,
and also the assumption that schizophrenia is dangerous, because it's only like a fraction of, when you hear about the violent crimes, tiny fraction of people with the diagnosis. So all those other people, I don't know what the percentage is, but you know, maybe 90%. It's like the vast majority of people that that have got the diagnosis that aren't violent. You know, it's
exactly.
Most people.
Isn't there like a recovery rate of something like 30% or something from a diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Yeah,
It's like, you know,
yeah,
this isn't like some death sentence. People get better from it.
yeah,
And again, that's something else that there isn't any sort of allowance for, is full recovery. Like, you know, there are certain things that you are never going to recover from fully because it changes you in a way. Like, so this is kind of going a little bit off path, but there's part of me that kind of is like, as I say, I'm under assessment and recovery, but because I know most of the root of what I'm experiencing is through trauma, and the thing that's traumatizing is racism. Well, unless we're going to end that any day soon, there is no recovery from that. It is an ongoing condition. There is no recovery. And it doesn't matter how much I count, doesn't matter how much I ground myself, it doesn't matter how much I'm, you know, supported. When my ass walks out the door in Bristol, my black ass is black living in Britain. And it, you know, there is no meds that can fix that. There is no therapy that can fix that. What I need is realistic tools to be able to deal with that, which are going to change. Because that's the other thing as well. Things don't work after a while.
Yeah, but also it's a really good way of putting it as well, because actually, even if you could get pills that would change your skin tone or change you to a white person, you won't want, you know, that's not what you want. You want people to treat you equally, not to have to change yourself.
No.
And this is I think this is something with a lot of what's termed of as mental illness, is that people have got differences. And you know, when we talk about making people well, for some people it's not so much that they're even ill, it's just society treats them badly. So that's where you know, it's awful when people are going through trauma and you think, oh yeah, it's because of the mental illness, but actually if the trauma wasn't there, the mental illness likely wouldn't be as severe. But also for some people, those experiences don't have to be traumatizing, you know. Or I'm just trying to think, it's like with personality disorder, you don't, or bipolar, there can be some things about difference which is actually you know, you wouldn't want a pill to take that away. And it's more about, well, actually, why, you know, because sometimes it allows for talents and things that wouldn't otherwise be there if you kind of were, you know, if your personality was different. And it just means that different talents, ways of thinking, different types of knowledge can be accessed. And it's more to do with people accepting that. And that's the whole thing, I think, with lived experience working, is that you're working with a different lens, you're coming from a different point of view. It doesn't make it less than. It just it's still as valid, because at the end of the day we're all existing in the same it's the same world as such. It's just that there's different, if you're at different points on there, things will look and sound different. So one perspective on a sort of a big round world isn't enough, because then you're missing the perspectives of elsewhere. So I mean, ideally they should all everything should be should be valid, because it's all part of the same reality. I'm getting all bloody quantum physics at this stage.
I'm not hating on it though. It's quite highbrow for a Sunday evening. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't normally get into these lockdown.
Yeah, but you know what? This is coming back to, you know what we were saying at the beginning, where you're saying, actually, you know, I'm kind of like, I'm more sort of qualified from XYZ, so I use lived experience in my work, but I'm not really a lived experience practitioner. And I'm thinking, but actually, you're talking about the mad black pixie thing, and actually, for that you are, because you're kind of like, you're coming out, you're being, it's not just about saying it, it's about working from that perspective, because then, you know, everyone has health, everyone's got mental health, everyone has periods of adverse mental health, just like you have periods of adverse physical health. But what you're doing is you're kind of like, you're saying, actually, I have this kind of chronic way of being, or this is part of my existence, and I'm using the insight for that within the work that I'm doing, and being kind of and as you know, that's very different to when you do, you know, same area of work, but when you're not doing that openly from that perspective, you kind of you're treated differently by your colleagues, but you have to, there's certainly a different approach. And
oh, definitely.
Yeah,
I was going to say, like, you know, I suppose the reason why I made that differentiation is because, as I say, as a youth work practitioner or trained in youth and community work, that isn't, you know, being a youth isn't a criteria for it. Having said that, I actually started as a young person. So again, I've actually done that, again, lived experience from the perspective of being the demographic of who I'm supposed to be targeting, same as when I was a black worker. So, and again, you know, yeah, name drop who I worked for. I worked for Times Change. And again, that whole campaign is centered around people with lived experience, sharing that with people who don't have lived experience. So yeah, I was probably a bit wrong, but it was just to professionally make the differentiation. But I think the other thing within youth work, and it's something that I find, like, I'm finding this a bit of a, is this a disconnect? Because once you get into the system, you quite clearly are part of that medical model dichotomy, or do they not train on this? And as a youth worker, I am trained that in every interaction with young people, I need to check the power dynamic. Whether or not it feels like this young person is mature enough and talking like a peer, I am the professional and therefore I hold the power. And I would have thought that therapists, particularly, are trained in that. And yet, when you have a therapist telling you that you're intimidating, and that therapist is the lead clinical psychologist, and they're writing that in your exit letter that's going to go on your medical notes for the rest of your life, you got to kind of wonder, well, how am I intimidating you when you are in charge of all of this?
Yeah.
And you're white, and you're a woman, and you're a doctor. How am I intimidated? I have no power in this situation whatsoever. You know?
Isn't it interesting that that's something that is so, or you think it's so basic? You think it is, and you know, in the survivor movement, and I'm just thinking, like Sherry Arnstein's ladder that everyone kind of quotes, the ladder of participation. All of those ladders center on power dynamics, and you know, the bit where co-production is only it's only co-production when you've got sort of equal power sharing and decision making. So I just find it, because I find it fascinating that the colleagues I work with who are not lived experience practitioners, or people who are kind of therapists, so you know, they're often either feel insulted or angry, or kind of if you bring up the power side, and actually if you bring up exploitation, or you bring up that basically if you're bringing up where there are inequalities, people are then getting offended that you're talking about inequality, or that you would say that they're treating you as unequal, and people get really upset about that. It's like, well, okay, if you don't like it, stop doing it then, or just kind of like, just take a look at it.
Is,
you know,
this is the thing, and it's really interesting because, and again, I have to give you huge, massive thanks, because if I hadn't have got involved with MAD studies, I really wouldn't be able to tear these people and hold them to account in the way that I can, because the reality is actually you are professionals. You spend however many years honing your craft. You are not going to tell me when you work in a city with the demographic that this is, you have never had a Black woman who has had a history of race-based trauma who is using your service. I cannot be the first, nor can I be the first to hold you to account. So if you ain't gotten over whatever shit this is, you need to go and find a Black supervisor, you need to get some kind of Black oversight, something needs to happen, because these people are causing harm. And you know, that's the tagline for my company. Why? Do no harm but take no shit. It's like, I don't care if you're not, if I don't care if you're not actually meant to be in that job, but you're in that job, and if you can't do it properly, that's not my problem. You need to deal with that. If me making you aware of what I expect makes you uncomfortable, that's not on me. Do your job.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm so glad that you've said that, actually, because it makes me feel so much better, because that's been basically the book I've been preaching from over the last, you know, I think especially the last year, where I've basically been saying, you know, you can't do this yourselves anymore. You know, you keep, it's, in fact, a lot of us in the survivor movement have been saying it. It's basically, you can't lead co-production because people with lived experience need to lead that. You know, actually, this is not your job. You don't understand it. You haven't really got the business to be doing this. And also, why are people who don't work from a lived experience perspective leading this, when we've got people who are qualified, experienced, and fucking unemployed? Do you know what I mean? Oh, fuck off. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, in the D&I sector, we have a similar situation where, you know, again, the D&I sector is predominantly white women. And the amount of white women...
You have to tell me, D&I sector?
Diversity and inclusion.
Ah, okay.
So it's
mainly white women. I didn't know that.
White women.
This is from working in Birmingham, because it...
No. This is when, so like, I'm in a variety of different like training groups and things. So these people who are sitting in. So this is across sectors. So this is across business. This is across public sector. You know, there's people that are sitting in NHS D&I lead roles, or other people that are doing diversity and inclusion as part of HR departments. All this kind of like stuff, as well as trainers and consultants, and you know. But the vast majority are white. In fact, it's 2 white women that set the group up.
Wow.
And one of the problems is that lots of places and a lot of companies put a load of white women in as their diversity hire. Historically, that's what they did. It was like, quick, put a woman in, any woman. So you had these women.
As long as you're not Black.
Yeah, well, it was basically white women are the diversity bit, and that sounds horrific, as though these women didn't earn those spaces. Don't get me wrong, the fight for women's equality, particularly during like the 70s in the workplace, I am not taking anything from that. However, what you now have is a whole load of white women that are leading this work. They do not understand the intersection of race. They don't understand it. They don't understand the intersection of sexuality. Because they are predominantly cisgendered, white, heterosexual women. Now, you might get a bit of the ageism stuff covered from the perspective of, you know, menopausal health and women's health and things like that. But if you are a young woman in that organization and
don't Don't you get more LGBT women as well?
Sorry?
Don't you get more LGBT women?
Not specifically in D&I.
Oh.
More gay men as trainers.
Oh. That surprises me. It's probably, again, working in NHS. If you work in mental health, I think you get more LGBT representation anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in the NHS, and I know I speak as somebody who has a friend who works in D&I in the NHS, but not clinical side, business side. So I know I have a better insight of what they're kind of doing. So there's a lot of stuff that's being led by the various marginalised groups. So, you know, they've got a very good BAME network, they've got a good LGBT network. I think what happened with them is that there's been a bit of a stall because they kind of had a post and then it was like, it kind of went, boom, and they were like, oh, damn, we need a team. And so they're kind of playing catch up because so there's a lot of stuff to come. And also I would give them full props for the fact that they're on the right track. It's just then COVID hit. But even with that, and I'm not saying this just because this is my mate who was in this role, but they were at the lead of doing, you know, risk assessments for BAME staff and highlighting priorities BAME staff who are frontline because they have to use public transport, etc., etc. They were straight in there. They had a plan for Eid and Ramadan already for COVID. Do you know what I mean? To make it as flexible for their staff. Like, but again, and this is the problem with D&I particularly, and I don't know how much it is in with LXPs. It's all dependent on who you build a relationship with. And the minute there's a turnover of staff, you've got to start that process all over again. That's not how it should be. This kind of shit needs to be embedded as core part of your work.
Yeah.
If you aren't delivering on this, then you need to be held accountable for it, especially when you're pulling 45 grand a year. And my ass can't get more than 17 and a half. Just putting it out there.
It's just so wrong, isn't it?
I'm not going to lie. I actually looked at doing, like, you know, maybe some kind of peer support work or something like that. But it's like nearly 12 grand a year less than what I would earn as a newly qualified youth worker. And I'm 25.
It's wrong, isn't it?
20 years qualified. So,
it's
you know,
so wrong.
On market value.
It's so wrong. It's disgusting.
It is.
You know, I work with people with degrees and
experience of considering this is to do with your health. You need danger money, man. Or they need to at least pay for your private therapy.
Listen, they ain't even got as far as flipping paying for the roof over you. You've got to start with the basics. We're not even working.
I mean, you know, let's put it this way. When you're working for a mental health organisation and your actual boss tells you that you are, when you raise issues around like some real homophobia and you get told, you're a bit anxious today. No, I'm annoyed because I'm working with a homophobe and you didn't do anything about it. That's not anxiety. That's me pissed off.
Yeah.
That made me angry because then you'll see a whole new level of mental illness. Crazy black woman. Do you know what I mean? So what do you mean you're a bit anxious?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. And of course, I've got to say that part of fighting discrimination, and part of that means actually you're having to look at it, you're having to see it, you have to acknowledge it, and you have to go over and over and over in your head, and it's fucking traumatizing. And then you're kind of you can deal with it.
That thing. That is the bit I don't think people realise, is that repeatedly having to tell your story over and over and over again, and to so many different people. And it's like, look, what are you writing down when I'm telling you this?
Yeah. Well, this is it. And at the moment, it's pretty much like I get telling this stuff all over the place, but it's pretty much like almost like people saying, "Oh, we don't believe you," because if I've been saying this for like, again, best part of a decade, and I've been saying it quietly or more politely, whatever that is, or kind of basically in a way where I wasn't holding people to account. I said, look, this is happening to me. Could you do something? Nothing happens. I just kind of go away, get annoyed, and I'll come back again eventually, but not sort of holding to account like I've been trying to do over particularly the last year. And it's only been when basically I've lost so much. So seizures, kind of like, dental, this fucking thing that I hate wearing at night, this bloody fucking thing. I mean, the thing is like people forget that it's not just I don't know why, but I can't bear I find it traumatic even brushing my teeth, like let alone going to a dentist. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why, I don't understand it, but I don't like things in my mouth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, so to have to go to the dentist, like, practically every month during the last year, and every time I have to have something done, and it's been from this tooth grinding because I've been anxious, then I have to wear this thing like every night. I can't wear it every night because some nights I just think I can't. The thought of it's like brushing it and cleaning it and kind of like, I don't know, some days I can't put it into my mouth. I just can't do it. But that then means that, the next day I'm kind of in pain, or do you know what I mean? So
No, absolutely.
this is what pisses me off. And then people are asking when you're finally starting to do something about it, and when you're finally starting to complain about it, or you're bringing in grievance or complaint, or and then people are kind of chatting as though it's not real, or it's not there, or kind of well, they're kind
sure?
of
are you not
yeah.
are you a bit stressed?
Have you got in
happy
touch?
pills?
Yeah, have you got in touch with your mental health team? Are you kind of like taking care of?
Do you know something, right? And I will tell you this because I've told you before that like I had a whole load of harassment from a former employer, and what was horrendous about it is they did it to every single black member of staff during that period of time. And they basically set another black woman up against me, and when she then
And they did this to all the other black staff as well.
It was like a pattern behaviour.
It's a great
woman took them to tribunal, and I ended up giving evidence. But I cannot emphasize, like, the minute when me and her sat across the table from each other and actually spoke, it was like weird. The exact same crap that they pulled with me, they pulled with her. The difference was I only worked for them 1 day a week, and I had a substantial job, and they needed me more than I needed them. But the way they came at me, holy crap, I'd stopped working for them, and they actually wrote me a letter saying that they weren't going to, and I quote, claim back money because I hadn't finished the work. And then I had to draw their attention to, you contracted me to work this many hours a week. I worked that many hours a week. There is nothing in my contract that says I have to deliver these pieces of work. So what are you talking about? If I'm in breach of contract and you want your money back, you're going to have to take them to court. It was ridiculous. And but the thing is, because I'm a union rep, I know they're talking rubbish. Yeah. I didn't know that if I wasn't in the union. And considering I only worked 1 day a week for them, to make a letter like that, do you know what I mean? It's rubbish. They accused me of stealing equipment. They accused me of stealing money. All this stuff. They did the exact same thing to this woman as well.
And this was the woman who was sent in to basically be the rubber stamp against all the other black workers. And then, so essentially you were all going through it and she wasn't there for you to, she'd gone up the ladder, she pulled up the ladder behind her.
No. In this instance, this woman, so basically what had happened was she got used as well, and then they sacked her, and it was completely, they tried to claim that she had a bad attitude because she wouldn't look them in the eye. And when she tried to ascertain what do they mean by that, they couldn't really, but that was essentially why they sacked her. Not because she's bad at her job, not because she can't do what she's doing. And so we had a conversation, we sat down, and again, let's put it like this. This is a darker skinned black woman, this is a bigger black woman, she's got natural hair, do you know what I mean? And they basically tried to pit us one against the other. And because we spoke to each other, we suddenly went, hello, hold on. No. This is how these organisations work. And this is how these people do this.
Okay.
And it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, Alison never said anything when we did this, but it wasn't like that. The reality is I didn't work as many hours. And also, I had a very different relationship with that organisation because they came to me, they came and begged me to come back because I'd previously worked for them. So the power dynamics were very different, and they were terrified because they were horrendous. They were horrendous. That's why they came after me. And then they sent her like to come and fetch me. And it was like, and to be fair to her, I actually said at the time, I know what's going on. Don't get yourself involved with what they're trying to do here. And then a year or two later, me and her met up and she was like, I think me and you need to talk because I'm going to take them to tribunal. I was like, good. If you need me to give evidence, I'm there. And I did. I was at the, I gave evidence. I did not give a toss because actually, and again, this is another thing. If more than one black woman's in one place, them organisations get scared. If more than one black woman is talking to another, they get scared, they get twitchy, and I've seen it with my own eyes because we must be plotting against them because we have nothing else to talk about than how to get back.
See, this is
Most
interesting.
Of the time we're about what we're for lunch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is so interesting to listening to you saying this because this is where like it's almost like scales coming away from my eyes because I'm thinking, oh yeah, because you know people don't seem to like me talking to the, you know, I seem to be kept separate from a lot of the other lived experience practitioners, or kind of not. They'll be in steering groups meetings, and I won't. Although I've got more experience, understanding on that side. And they would rather, you know,
your mouth. That's why you don't get invited to things.
Yeah.
Because when I became a union rep, all of a sudden I stopped getting invited to things. The problem was the white girl they tried to co-opt as their little, like, you know, companion is my mate. Not only is she my mate, but she's also in the union, but they didn't realise it. Even though her name's on all the documentation, it's not like it's a secret. She's like she was our secretary for our branch. But in their head, she conformed to that. You know, my mate, she's lovely. She's so lovely. She's so nice. She's like a girl guide grown up. But don't mess about. My mate's from Birmingham. That's my girl. She's got my back. So, you know, Alison, do you know about this meeting? Come, I'm driving. Well, you know, I figured that Alison should be here because she's a level 2 worker rep. And they don't know what to say to her because she's so nice. Of course she's doing a nice thing. She would never try like infiltrate union in here. And then she's like, yeah, but they don't know the union's in here with me. But it's okay. It's all right. And that, you see, again, when white people want to do that, I'm an ally. No. That's accomplice where you go, do you know what, black people need to be in the room, so I'm going to bring the black people in the room. That's using your privilege. And not going, oh, I'm bringing you a friend. Like, do you know about this? No, do you want a lift? Yeah, off we go. And then when they call you, I'm going, well, no one said it was a private meeting. That's my friend Rachel. In fact, she's in Bearwood now, which is awesome. She's gone back home. So yeah.
Listen, you've got to come back home as well.
I know. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Do you know what? The thing is, it's really interesting. So I can't come home because of like Leila's speech and language in her school and stuff, but almost all my work has come from Birmingham so far. There's only a couple of bits that are down here, and the latest thing that I've just got is Manchester. So I think the north is pulling me. I'm coming, but I can't.
But you know what the good thing is as well is that I think with COVID, at least it's making remote working a lot easier. So you can get those contracts.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's really funny because, like, on the surface, nothing changed for me because I obviously work from home all along. So the only thing that's really weird is now my mates are around in the daytime. So I get random texts or WhatsApps or me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, which I never used to get before, just because everybody would be at work. But now everybody's like Skyping off on Zoom and going, have you seen this? Check this out.
Yeah. Cool.
I had an entire hour when my mate was on a Zoom, and I mean, I was working, but I'm just doing like, PowerPoint slide notes. So I'm not actually working. And I just kept getting, I'm so bored. I'm like, why don't you just like mute everything and just phone me? No, I've got to have my camera. So, all right, okay.
You know what, Pete? You know what is the thing now is that if you've got low bandwidth, you have to take your camera off so that you can hear the meeting properly. I mean that is actually true. You know, if your bandwidth is low and everything keeps freezing and you can't hear properly, then you do have to put your camera off.
I'll have to remember.
But you also I didn't know this. So other people were doing it, and obviously, I mean, there is low bandwidth. I'm not saying that everyone who ever does that is just like, I need to chat to my mate on the phone.
I take my camera off because, as you can see, I sit in my kitchen, and so I just don't think people really want to see me making myself a cup of tea in the middle of.
Yeah, well, that's what I do sometimes, because the thing is, I'm listening and I am taking part, but sometimes I need a cup of coffee.
And so, you will have noticed that I was muting here, but that was because I was mentioning my crackers, and nobody needs to hear that. That's why I keep muting, is so you don't have to hear me crunch.
So, do you know what? This is perfect, because we've been talking about home, I've been talking about food, and that takes us back to, you know what, at the beginning when we introduced it, and I think now we're coming to a point to like to finish. And again, we're talking about food, we're talking about coming home, and yeah, I just wanted to say massive thank you, because I don't know how many people actually kind of like listen to this or not, if they'll have actually got to this part, because it's like probably a good 2 hour phone call. But we can talk. But there's something that's fascinating, and it's so interesting in that just what I love about talking to you is that the way that you it's all this stuff that you know, and it's kind of it's not exactly the same, but it kind of it fits something that hasn't been completely written or understood yet. Do you know what I mean? It kind of, when it comes to lived experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it as well is, you know, as you know, I've been reading a whole lot around trauma and about CPTSD, and you know, particularly around intergenerational trauma and inherited trauma and things like that, and epigenetics. And it's really interesting because I follow you know, somatic experiencing therapy. So it's all about body connection and things like that. And that's the guy whose book I was telling you about, Peter Levine. He did this surviving CPTSD book. Anyway, one of the things that they the somatic experiencing talk about is the kind of, I'm trying to think how they put it because I don't want to get it wrong now. How is it that they say, yeah, we're inheriting trauma, but we're not the only ones. And I heard this guy talking about it was to do with healing from racial trauma, and it's that thing of, and this has definitely given me a perspective for training, is white people are experiencing those same epigenetic trauma dynamics, in the sense of, if you imagine at the time slavery particularly was happening, let's look at somewhere like the UK, where for the vast majority of white people, they never actually saw enslaved Africans in this country. But let's say, for example, you are in somewhere like Liverpool or Cardiff or Bristol. You're a 10-year-old, your parents are selling shit down on market, down by the docks. And the first time you see a black person is in shackles, diseased, literally having survived this middle passage, because this is halfway, because they ain't even got to their final destination. And as a 10-year-old, you're going to know that's inherently wrong. You're going to know that is wrong. There is no way as a 10-year-old you don't know that's wrong. But everything around you is telling you that it's normal. All the adults seem perfectly fine with this, and no one else is running, no one else is freaking out, so you just shut that down. If that is your enduring first encounter with black people, that's going to carry on your trauma, on your DNA. So when white people or people with privilege react so strongly, it's their trauma line kicking in, just as much as my trauma line kicks in when we can sense there's going to be some kind of racial assault. The difference is that 10-year-old from 1812 or whenever it was, they've evolved and grown, and their situation and status has been solidified. You now in 2020, feeling that feeling, you're in no danger. If you open your mouth and say something, you are not going to get shot, you are not going to get cussed down. Worst thing that's going to happen is you might get some verbal backlash, but realistically, your life is in no danger, and that is the fundamental shift that has to happen. Is people need to recognize that, yeah, feeling guilty is a trauma response. It's understandable. Your ancestors were not in a situation where they could help, but you can. Get over yourself and do something. And that's not just white people, that's men, you know, that's the so-called neurotypicals, you know, this is cisgendered, heterosexual people. You know, if you have privilege, you need to get over your inherited guilt and just deal with it, because you can actually do and make a difference.
And actually, most people have got yes. I was going to say, most of us have got privilege in some context or some, if we, depending on what situation we're in, like it shifts and changes, doesn't it? So it's a case of whenever there are people who are more marginalised than we are for whatever reason, that you know, we kind of extend that hand, because, you know, even if you're, I'm trying to think, I don't know, but there's always somewhere, isn't there, where you'll be, you know, you can be like completely marginalised in one context, but there might be just one other context where there's other people that are more marginalised than you are, and you can do something for them?
So, like, a real clear example for me is that I am very conscious of the privilege that I have because, yes, my parents are immigrants, but they're educated and they came here as professionals, which is actually quite a middle class way to come here. They're not the Windrush generation.
Yeah.
And as such, I'm also very privileged because my parents never got brutalized through the British education system. They never went to school here. They went to school at home. They went to school in Trinidad and South Africa with children that looked like them. Even in South Africa, that had a whole colour bar thing. My mum went to school with other kids that looked like her. For those people who came here into the Windrush generation, they were the first generation that white children had ever seen. It was brutal. And let's not get twisted. Those children, I know them as, you know, men in their 50s and 60s now. They're our elders and they had to survive that. So if you imagine your children then going through that as a child, for me, I had parents who understood how the system worked and also weren't afraid or traumatized by it. Whereas other friends whose parents had gone through the system, their parents couldn't support them in the same way because it was either the school is completely right, why are you ramping with the school? Or they were just terrified.
And do you know what? It's interesting you say that because I'm just thinking now of the difference with because I suppose my granddad did come over, and then I'm thinking of sort of parents and you know kind of the differences there, because I think my granddad was pre Windrush, but he definitely wasn't sort of well educated and what have you. Yeah, I mean he was I think he had comparatively good education, but he was what I mean is like he came over when he was 14, 15 because he'd sort of lied his way into the Air Force or something, and sort of was able to come over as a, I don't know. So he told everyone that he was like, you know, in the Air Force and that he was flying planes and stuff. I think what actually happened was he came over and he was a porter in the kitchens or something. He was very good at you know, putting on a that's a whole other story. I mean, he used to be a driver for one of the embassies, and he had one of these cards, so he'd tell people that he was the ambassador and stuff, that he was like because I think he was driving for the Nigerian embassy or something like that. Then he used to say that he was one of the ambassadors.
Oh wait, so is he like the Nigerian prince, but from back in the day version of the internet? Do you know what I mean?
Except he wasn't even Nigerian, he was from
I love it. See, my mum and dad knew a Ghanaian prince in London, and it was so funny because like my mum's South African, and it's like, how many damn princes? Because they all seem to be princes. This is like in the 70s in Ghana. It was like, are they all princes? What the hell is this about? But yeah,
because one of my friends she's from Nigeria, and I think her dad's the chief, and you know, so she'd be like the equivalent of a princess. But I do think to myself, there's a lot of people that I know seem to be in the same situation. But then I think to myself, well, it kind of makes sense that if there are people that are going to come over here, that it would be people from more affluent sides. So I suppose maybe that's why we get more royalty over here. I don't know.
But again, it's also about what those titles mean, because we automatically assume like royal blood in terms of one single royal family. But if you look at, say, for example, India, like those Raja, they've got their own sort of empire kingdom and stuff, which is almost identical to tribal kingdoms. You know, you have a tribal king, you have a Zulu king, you have a Xhosa king, you have a Shona king, you know, and then you have the principalities that come with that. So I just suppose it's like, it's just weird for us because, you know, we've got some dry ass royal family where there's only 3 princes. Well, 2.5. I'm not really sure about Edward. Well, go on there. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, shit, am I going to get into some kind of like treason thing for saying? Oh my God, my dad has disowned me, you know, he's proper like, he loves the royal
Is he like
family.
loves the royal family?
Oh
yeah.
my God, he loves the Queen, Jesus. Oh, do you know, in 1960 something, I had to defend her. Yeah, because I have to do national service in Trinidad.
But that's like most Caribbean families, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Caribbean,
you know what?
With the Queen.
The only reason there is no royal family pictures on our wall is because my mum would beat the shit out of anybody that put some, she's not my queen. She's not my queen. Seriously.
But your mum's South African, isn't she?
Hell
so
yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, she's like, no, she ain't my queen. No. In fact, my mum even tried to pull the I'm a South African princess bullshit. Okay. From Cape
You weren't
Town.
having any of it then?
No. I mean, like my mum grew up in the equivalent of like, you know, Lascelles or Handsworth in Cape Town. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm saying it's like, come on, love. You know,
maybe she was the princess of the Lascelles of Handsworth.
Ghetto princess. Oh God. My mum's a ghetto princess. I'm gonna have to tell her this. Like, yo, mum, did you know?
So, Mum, I was doing a diary Zoom thing with my mate, and we at the end of it, we decided that you were a ghetto princess.
I just outed you as a ghetto princess that you are. I'm sorry, mummy. My bad. Although by now she's the matriarch, so she'd be the ghetto queen by now. So she outed it. Hey, she's even got a bite mark on her leg from a ghetto fight. Trust me, she's all good. Seriously. Seriously, she told my daughter this. She told Layla this story about how she got into a fight with the girl. And weirdly enough, it's because some girl was racist to her cousin, and my mum was having none of it and pinning this girl to the floor. And because she was trying to like do like a leg lock on this girl's like neck, she bit her on the leg, and she's still got the scar. But there she is telling my daughter. Yeah, so this girl, well, I can't really tell you what she called your auntie Heather, but it was not very nice. It was, and then she's there mouthing it to me, and I'm going, woman.
Mum, she can see.
Yeah. So she bit me on the leg and I need her in the face. What?
She's got grandparent points now.
This is where it comes from.
You can say anything, can't you?
This way? There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, don't run with African women, especially not South Africans. Jesus, I love you, Mum. Yeah, you've not met her yet.
Of course you do. I haven't. I'd love to.
No.
Yeah.
God help. Yeah. I'll have to tell you about the Corona TV story. They've got a new TV. Old people in technology, that's all I have to say.
How was that got to do with Corona? This sounds hilarious.
Well, only because of the fact that, because obviously people can't come into your house.
Yeah.
So trying to sort them out to set up the delivery. My mum's talking about having a 50-inch TV left in her hallway. Okay. She lives in a terrace house. The hallway is like a square at the bottom of the stairs. So I'm like, they're going to put a 50-inch TV in your hallway. And how are you going to get out of the kitchen or up the stairs? Are you going to hurdle it? This is my 78-year-old mother who is waiting for a hip replacement, can barely stand. She's going to hurdle a 50-inch TV to get up and down the damn stairs. Seriously. She's like, oh, there'll be space. I was like, where? Where is it?
Why is she having to take the 50-inch telly up the stairs?
Well, no, basically she was going to get them, the delivery guys, to just leave it in the front door in the hallway.
Yeah, but why does she want the big telly up? Is it not for her
hallway is, because of the size of it, literally, if you come through the front door, they'd have had to leave it, and it would essentially separate the hallway in half with the stairs that side and her kitchen in the kitchen this side. So she wouldn't be able to walk around it. because there's no way to walk around it. So I'm like, what are you going to do, hurdle? This seriously. And I'm like, Mum, you get my brother and you get my dad to move the furniture in the lounge, then you make sure that you are out of the way when they turn up with it, and they literally just take it all the way into the lounge, and then my dad and my brother can put it up. Mm-hmm. Oh no, but I don't want them to be in that trouble. Okay, you hurdle to the toilet, you do it. Go on. This I've got to see. But I ain't taking you to the hospital if you end up tripping and smacking your head off a wall because you want to hurdle over a 50-inch TV in your hallway. Yeah. Oh, you're frozen.
Got the ring and she could get away with it, you know.
Oh, you've come back. Hang on. I can hear you, but I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Oh, back again, yeah.
Oh my God. You think after this amount of time we'd know how Zoom works?
Yeah. Anyway, I think actually that's been a marathon, man. 2 hours. I don't know if anybody will ever get through the 2 hours. But
you're gonna have to edit this down.
No, I'm just gonna stick it up as it is. There's some other YouTube videos that are like 2 hours long. You know, someone's bored. Maybe they're doing the housework and they just fancy, you know, Tamara and Alison on in the background chatting shit. Job done.
But I do need to catch up with you because yeah, loads of crazy mad good stuff has happened. So yeah, you in.
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely. And thank you, because I've loved this chat. I don't care if anyone else listens to it or not. It's like, yeah, it's been good. It's been cathartic.
Awesome.
I finished my Baileys. Well, I haven't actually quite. Wine. You finished your wine?
No, I'm on my last wine, but yeah, it's good timing because my food is ready, so I can have my dinner.
But also, if your wine's empty, maybe you need to refill your glass, because my Baileys is empty.
No. I've been steadily topping up all the way through, so this is my my last one for the night.
Is that just because the bottle's gone?
I couldn't possibly comment.
And on that note, I'm gonna say goodbye, everybody who's probably
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. You know, because like, yeah, because I'm sure it's much more interesting than normally when I'm going. I don't even know if anyone listens, whatever. But you know, yeah, I think
go check it out. Go check it out. I will message you. Are you working this week? Sorry, just get a little bit personal here.
Actually, I'm off this week, so yeah, just give me a message. I say I'm off. I say I'm off, but you know what I'm like? I'm probably like catching up, writing, doing stuff, but I'm off, if that makes sense. So yeah, because I'm off, that means I can probably respond more.
I might give you a bell Tuesday afternoon.
Excellent.
Because to talk work stuff, because like I said, I've got I've got things that I need to run by you. But
sounds good. Sounds good. Really good. And also, actually, see, I'll keep this bit in because again, I'm showing, you know, the impact of having friends who support you and who blah 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 and who, you know, and obviously it's things like this, like, yeah, let's catch up and let's chat about some work stuff and yeah. So this is like good friends are there for you. You can be there for them and they're there for you, and it's reciprocal.
Yes, indeed, definitely.
I'm sure you've never.
And also, I want to be able to just chat crap to you.
Yeah, exactly. You know. Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure you've never had any friends who basically have been one-sided and just not, you know, kind of like taken and not given back, or kind of you know, not allowed you to chat shit to them and stuff like that. I'm sure you've never had that experience.
No, I've never been too overwhelming or, you know, too black or, you know, going through too much shit. You know, I'm going to eat my curry now.
Go and eat your curry. I'm going to go and
much.
watch his Dark Materials.
Yes,
with
indeed.
Nick.
And,
even though it's
yeah.
finished, I'll have to watch it on iPlayer or whatever it is.
But yeah, definitely watch the Small Axe films. That's my top pick. Yeah, check it out. It's very good.
Yeah, I've watched one of them, which was really good, but I do need to watch the others. Yeah,
the soundtracks are really good as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, then, my lovely. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.